I should probably.
Actually, one thing I should do, because I actually thought about doing it. I need to go here.
Well, all right.
I need to go here, and then I need to go here.
Ooh, come on, internet. Don't crap out on me now.
Copy that.
And you don't mind staying for the whole show, do you, Daniel?
Nah, I got nothing else to do. What else am I going to do?
During the show, do you want me to refer to you as Daniel or Bethany? Your
refer to me as Bethany.
So do what now?
He said Bethany.
Oh, okay.
Whoops, I gotta mute that.
Because some people don't like their real name being used, so I just wanted to make sure.
Yep.
I usually don't in an online setting. I muted you. There we go. I had to mute Twitch because I was getting feedback and it was annoying me.
Alright, I'm going to close this out.
Okay, I gotta go here. Am I signed in? Yeah.
I knew I should have restarted my router before the show. Hopefully everything will hold. I'm going at a good 2,200 kilobytes a second, so I'm doing good.
Like you're trying to run the Millennium Falcon.
Yeah, that's pretty much it at this point. I still get to do, I got to buy another 16 gig of RAM. I want to upgrade. And then
that's a lot of RAM.
I'll be topped out because I'm at like 32 now. I need to get more. I want more power.
Wait, if you're already at 32, why do you need more?
Because I just want more.
You don't need more.
I do need more.
Are you gonna do the 64 at this point?
Yes. Make it an Apple 64.
It's only that's only because you like Nintendo so much. Good lord, you have a problem.
How is Source at 540?
What's that?
Twitch's video. I checked the video quality. It's saying the Source is at 540p. I'm like, what the hell is that?
I
have mine going out at 720 because I don't want it. Because when I was doing it at 1080, that's when I was getting all that clipping. So I downgraded it to 720.
I'm sorry, you're clipping. I can't understand what you're saying.
Or am I?
No, you're not.
Don't do that to me. That's not funny.
Well, I got 32 gigs in mine, and even that's a lot. That's heaps.
I have 8 megabytes.
What are you running, an old Hewlett Packard from like 94?
It's a TRS 800.
You running dial-up right now?
$5,000 top of the line.
Still going through those 500 free America Online hours? Is that what you're doing?
Yes, and I have 3 hours left of the 500.
Well, I'm pretty much ready to go if you guys are. I don't know.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
is my lighting okay? Because now it's too bright. Okay, there we go.
It's a little bright. It's okay now. Still a little.
My lighting's crap because my light is there.
It's not better.
You should go get a flashlight and put it under your face.
I also have a lamp next to me, and there's one behind me. But this one does nothing.
You could put a flashlight under your chin and tell us ghost stories.
Mine and Jason's mutual friend Danny peer pressured me into buying a ring light.
Oh, I want one too.
She told me, she said, your video looks like shit on Jason's show.
God, I love Danny.
I'm sorry, I should have waited.
She's not wrong.
And then she started sending me links to ring lights. So I'm like, well, okay.
All right.
I just realized my monitor is reflecting on my glasses.
Oh, that's fine.
That's not a big deal. Yeah,
that's why I don't wear my glasses anymore.
I need to make my Discord window just slightly bigger in case one of my own backgrounds pop up.
Oh, I understand.
That's why.
Yeah.
That's why I don't wear my glasses on when I'm streaming anymore. I don't want you guys to see the porn I'm watching reflected in my
Mine-
glasses.
Mine is slightly below my eye line, so it doesn't reflect. So I mean, and the ring light is slightly above, so it doesn't reflect.
Well, I can see it a little bit, but
Right.
the issue is I got two 27-inch 4K monitors, so
Oh,
Woo!
I see.
Mr. Fancy Pants.
Yes, but it's only going to broadcast at 720.
All right.
well, the funny thing is, whenever I stream, it goes. My computer's got to take my 4K input, drop it all the way down to 720, and then re-upload it.
Mm,
Oh boy.
that sounds fun.
This is why I do all my streaming through my PlayStation.
Yeah. Well,
Right.
let's go ahead and get this started, fellas. You know, I think you know the show well enough to know the drill.
Do I?
Yeah, I think so.
All right, let's go.
You're probably not, for some reason, my soundboard, nobody can hear my soundboard anymore. It just decided to stop going through.
Oh,
sound.
I've never been able to hear the soundboard.
So I don't know, you'll just have to listen for the cues. So here we go. In 3, 2, 1. Do you like this show and you want to help support us? Do you want us to stay ad-free? Do you like extra episodes every month? Of course you do. Well, head over to patreon.com/nerdcaveretro. Become a Patreon supporter of this very show. Happy New Year, programs! It is I, JayFunktastic, Jason Robbins, and I am here with Mr. Wally Phelps.
Hello.
Hello, that's all you got? That's all you got for him in this new
Oh,
year?
I'm sorry. Well, hello there.
And like we said before, actually, before I start, Derek Diamond, your usual co-host, is not here this evening. He won't be here for the next couple of weeks because he had some personal things come up in his life and asked me if he could take a couple of weeks off and get some stuff, taken care of in his personal life. So I, of course, asked our best good friend, Mr. Wally Phelps, if he could fill in for Mr. Derek Diamond while he's away. And Wally is here with us. And yeah, he said no. So he's not here. Wally's not here. And like we said, before the year ended, we had some new stuff we were working on for the new year. And one of the things we're going to do every month, once a month, we're going to do a community spotlight where we talk to a member of our Patreon community and community at large here for the Nerd Cave Retro. And for the very first one, who else other than the person who's been here for some reason likes me and Wally. He's been here since the Pop Culture Palette days, and he still follows us, so apparently we're doing something right. He's our community manager. If you would like to join our Discord community, it's at Bethany_Fox1 on Twitter, Bethany Fox. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty well.
Joining us from the other side of the world. You're actually in a safe place right now because America today is burning to the ground. So you get to watch us from a safe distance and see the
far away in the down under.
So how are things going in the down under these days?
As good as they could, I suppose. We've had a few hotspots flare up in the state that I'm living in. Other than that, still on restrictions. They just brought in mandatory mask wearing as of Monday. So what else can you do?
Yeah, pretty much the same here.
Well, I mean, the hot spots are spots at this point.
Yeah,
they're big spots.
So
right.
tell us about you. You're our community manager over on the Discord, and we have a thriving Discord community. Tell us about you. Like, tell us things that that we should know about you.
Well, well, I hmm. Well, I do write. I write a couple of short stories here and there. I have a major one that I'm working on at the moment, which has been going on for a couple of years. I've got some 40K custom lore that I'm working on. I'm very big into Warhammer. A pile of empty boxes back there.
How did you get into Warhammer? Because that's something that we have our own channel dedicated to 40K lore and all the Warhammer type stuff, and you put so much stuff in there, and I've only played like one Warhammer game in my life, so all the stuff is just like I can't even like imagine having that much information in my head. I don't even know if I know that much about Star Wars that you know about Warhammer.
Well, I first got into it. I was first introduced to it by my brothers, actually. My eldest brother was into it back in the day. This is going back probably late 90s, mid to late 90s.
Doing the tabletop stuff? Was
Yeah.
was there video games back then, or was it just all tabletop?
I think at that time there was a video game. I think that's roughly when Dawn of War was released, if I'm not mistaken. It was either late 90s or early 2000s. I'm not 100% sure.
Because I know that the creators of Warcraft took a lot of inspiration from Warhammer, which I mean is pretty obvious when you play any kind of Warcraft games.
Yeah, I think Warhammer has been around for since early 80s, I think.
Yeah.
I think it's been around since the early 80s. It started out as a tabletop, and it's still going as a tabletop. It's fairly popular. There's tons and tons of lore around all of it, but the one thing that really got me really into it, I was first properly introduced to it through Dawn of War. It was Dawn of War, Dark Crusade, I believe it was. That's the first game that I started playing and started getting into a very little bit of the lore, and then I did more and more of my own research, and it's the actual lore behind all of it is extremely fascinating.
Yeah. Well, that was the one thing I really liked about the game that I played was, I don't know if you got, did you ever play Space Marine, Wally, for the Xbox 360?
No, but I know what you're talking about.
That was a really fun game because the aesthetic of the game, it's that far-flung future where, humans against like orcs from another planet, and all the humans are like super religious, and it's all about like paladins and all that kind of stuff, so it's a really cool thing. I never went any further than Space Marine. I never got to play any of the sort of the real-time strategy games or anything like that.
Well, I tried to get you into tabletop gaming, for Christ's sake.
I know. The problem with tabletop gaming is it takes so much time.
Well, and I think that's really what it was, because you showed up, because I brought you in to observe us playing D&D, and you showed up at the worst possible moment, because we were shopping. We were trying to get prepared for our travels, and you like maybe an hour into us buying, finding out whether or not this place had charcoal.
Yeah.
You were like, you know what? I'm good. I'll see y'all later.
I mean,
So there,
I played a lot of Champions when I was younger. I never really played D&D. I played a lot of Champions when I was younger. That was really the only kind of it wasn't so much tabletop. It was more just kind of pen and paper, type of thing. Wasn't so much tabletop.
yeah, well, that is an RPG. So it's which is D&D falls also in the category of RPG as well. But with 40K with Warhammer and Warhammer Age of Sigmar, which is back in the day it used to be called Fantasy, Warhammer Fantasy. It Those games generally are quicker. D&D can take days, months, years.
Yeah, ours
sometimes.
is on 3 years now.
Yeah.
So
Whereas Warhammer can take an hour to a day.
See,
It depends on how big the scale is. So a 1500 point army, a 1500 point match would generally take about 2-3 hours, depending on what game you're playing. That you can do smaller games. You can do a 500 point army game, which is going to be a lot quicker. It all depends.
right, and each unit has a certain number of points that you assign to that's assigned to it, right? And that's how it's
Yeah.
So it's the only thing that I played that was similar to that was Hero Clicks, which had a similar point value system, and matches did take like 2-3 hours.
Yeah, I remember when you and everybody were into the hero clicks at one time, and you guys were going crazy over buying all these hero clicks, and I just
It wasn't me. James was buying them because he wanted to. He was buying the ones that would kick my ass. So yeah,
I don't have the extra money to just spend.
Neither did I. So James kicked my ass.
and hey, the models in general just look cool.
All right.
That's one of the new Space Marine units.
Oh,
see,
uses grav technology, but they only just recently brought them in.
The only hero click I have, I don't know if you guys remember City of Villains for the PC. I still have my box, and I've got one of the hero clicks still in the bag.
That's pretty cool, actually. That looks cool.
I've got a whole thing full of them over in the corner of my room right now.
Along with
I'm not going to bring them over here, but the thing is with 40K is that I know a lot of my friends actually are into it, and LB does a lot of customizations and things like that on the figures. A lot of customization. My friend Mark that plays D&D with me brings Warhammer figures, like mech type things, and he's got them painted to look like they've got graffiti on it and stuff like that. And I don't know how he does it, but it looks amazing when he's done with them.
That's our mutual friend LB. That's pretty much all he's done the entire quarantine is just painting Warhammer figures. And I go over to his house occasionally, and like his garage is just this shrine to Warhammer 40K. Like he's just got, I probably took like 5 years off my life from the paint that's in there that he uses to paint them with.
Most of the time, like just model painting in general, because Star Wars has a model range. It's got a tabletop game. I believe they've also got a space type game as well, which
and
is
you can
played
combine
on
the two.
Yeah.
I've seen it. Yeah.
I've seen models for Star Wars. I've never looked into it because it doesn't particularly interest me too much. But when it comes to painting models, you can stick to your general, like, what's on the box type paint scheme, or you can just go balls to the wall and just do your own thing. Like, I've got a couple of models over to my right, which they're too far away to grab, but I've just done all custom stuff. Like, even this is not even painted in the right colors.
Nice.
That's cool.
They're just like custom, or just colors that I want to paint it in. And you know, a lot of places are like that. And 40K allows you to have that freedom. And even there's another one, because there's quite a few tabletop games. I can't think of what they are. But in general, like, you buy the models, you put them together, and then you paint them. It's for a lot of people, it's very, very therapeutic.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah.
It sounds like something I could really get into because I, with adult attention deficit disorder, I get really hyper focused on the things that I enjoy. So that would probably be one of the things I get hyper focused on, and then everything just kind of falls away. The next thing I know, it's like 9 hours later, and I've painted like 20 figures. So might be something I need to look into to center myself sometimes.
And yeah, it's one of those things where you just put a model together, you pick up a brush and start painting, and forget about everything else that's happening around.
Well, we're about to go into start the show and do the news segment, and we have asked Bethany Fox to hang out with us for the entire show. And so thank you for coming on and telling us about you, telling us a little bit about you. If you'd like to join our Discord server, he will remind me to put the link out there.
We tweeted it out earlier.
Just quickly, I'll probably say it at the end of the show as well. If you are watching in Twitch, you can go straight over to Jay's Twitter, Nerd Cave Twitter, I believe. I think that's where I put it. Yes, you can put it on the Nerd Cave Twitter. And I've put a link to the Discord in the comments of that post. So yeah.
And don't be afraid to join the community. It's a bunch of good people. We all, everybody's friendly. Nobody's anybody toxic will get ejected immediately. So it's a safe place to be.
I'm not there anymore.
Yeah. And so if you'd like to join, go check out the Nerd Cave Retro Twitter. And so you guys want to go ahead and go into the news for this week?
If we must.
Let's do it. This first story is an email from one of our regular listeners. I am the Rampage. This is from the motherofallnerds.com. Gerard Butler has been chosen to play Kratos in Sony's God of War movie. Sony Pictures remains focused on the adaptations of some of the most popular video game franchises. What the hell is a franchise? A franchise
and a franchise
that are exclusive to PlayStation following the successful completion of shootings for the Uncharted film starring Tom Holland, which is currently in post-production. Sony will focus on God of War, which is expected to begin filming next spring, ahead of the planned release by Sony in 2022. The casting process is already paying off, as confirmed by The Hollywood Reporter. Gerard Butler, I cannot talk tonight. Gerard Butler has been chosen by Sony to play Kratos, the Ghost of Sparta, in the film adaptation of the video game franchise. What do you guys think of Gerard Butler playing Kratos? I mean, if we get another 300, Leonidas type type
I
of
need to
thing
see
out of
who
him.
that is. Okay, firstly, I had no idea they were making a God of War
All right.
movie.
So while he's making a nasty face like he just smelled a huge fart. So what is that face about?
I just think it's so on the
Oh,
nose is all.
I don't know. I don't. Where I need. I.
I'll be honest,
I don't.
I can't really think
I
of
can't
anybody.
picture him. I can't. I'm looking at his. I'm looking at his a photo of him. I can't picture him. He's not. He's not. 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 Wouldn't say not buff enough, but he doesn't have. I don't think he's got the figure that I would expect Kratos to be.
Yeah, but who really does? I mean, Kratos is like
Well,
300
How dare
pounds
you, sir? I'm sitting right here.
well, like Kratos is very muscly.
Well, I mean,
Like
if you could,
he's
if
ripped.
you could cast somebody as right now as Kratos, who would you be your top pick?
It would either be it would probably either be Vin Diesel, I reckon,
Ooh,
or I've forgotten his name, and he's Australian, and I forgot his name.
Chris Hemsworth.
Chris Hemsworth?
No,
Liam Hemsworth.
no, Wolverine. I just can't think of his name.
Oh,
Hugh
Hugh
Jackman.
Jackman.
Hugh Jackman.
I was gonna
That's
say-
it.
Greatest actor.
I was gonna say Yahoo Serious.
You son of a bitch.
What about you, Wally? Who would be on your top list?
Oh, I mean, without a shadow of a doubt, I think that he has the range to cover it, and it is, of course, you.
Sure. Okay. I'm not willing to hit the gym that hard. Sorry.
Fine, Paul Rudd. I honestly don't know. It's just
I'll be honest that you say Chris Hemsworth, and that kind of pops in my head. Like I can see Chris Hemsworth playing Kratos.
Okay, I need to go back to Google. I've forgotten what he looks like.
You don't remember what Chris Hemsworth looks like? What kind of Australian are you?
I don't know what every American looks like, you racist.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, he is definitely a strong contender. He'd make a great Kratos. But yeah, Gerard Butler, I can't see him being Kratos.
Well, the thing is, Gerard Butler's getting older too. He's got to be pushing 50 at this point. So I would imagine if maybe they're gonna do an older Kratos, kind of like the last game that was out. You know, an older, more kind of beat down, like he's been through the shit already, kind of Kratos.
I just hope it's whatever they do with it. I just hope it's not a failure.
Yeah, I mean, I can't wait. I'm not a huge fan of the God of War series, but I have played them and I do like them. I didn't play the last one. I still have to get to it, but I will one of these days. But I do like the God of War series. I think it will make a good movie. I just hope they get a good director, good writer, and like you said, I hope they don't screw it up.
Yeah.
And Wally, do you want to take the next story, or you want me to do all three?
I can do that. Let me open it. All right, so this one I think is like you've done this many times.
Yeah.
So basically, it says industry analysts are still confident we'll see a Switch Pro this year. Maybe they'll just call it the new Nintendo Switch, though. Which GameIndustry.biz is back with its annual predictions for the year, and it seems like industry experts think it's about to be a big year for Nintendo. Blah, 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 lots of stuff we don't care about. When asked for his first 2021 prediction, Dr. Toto, who blessed the rains down in Africa, begins with the launch of the Switch Pro. I predict a beefed up 4K device coming to Nintendo's next financial year, he says. in the interview with GI.biz. However, last year, Dr. Toto, who is not in Kansas anymore, predicted a spectacular game on mobile from Nintendo, a prediction that he says was false. No love for Pokemon Cafe Mix then. He adds that Switch is just a word, but we're not entirely sure what it means. It's a little ominous, actually. And I'm gonna, I'm not gonna read the rest of it because it really doesn't give you any information. It
Yeah,
just
well,
basically
the thing I wanted to really talk about here is he says he predicts a beefed up 4K device. I
right.
don't see that happening in that form factor.
No.
You have to have something way more powerful to do 4K.
It is doable,
Yeah, but you'll get like
except
10 minutes of battery life if you do that.
that's what I mean. Like, it is doable, except there are there are a lot of like big downfalls. You're talking about a more chunkier device. Like, I mean, some mobiles have 4K displays in them. They definitely have 1440p displays.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, my phone is capable. In fact, my phone has Game Pass on it. I can use my Xbox controller, play Xbox games at 4K, 120 frames per second. And I don't see why Nintendo can't make a device like that, but I don't think they will because it'll be too expensive.
Not only that,
Like I said, it is doable, but the device would need to be bigger. The not much bigger. It'd only need to be slightly bigger. They'd have to overhaul the cooling on the device.
that's what I was going to
100%, yeah.
say.
The
because,
cooling's very even on a Switch now.
Yeah.
It's not cooled properly. Even when it's in its dock,
Mhm.
the dock restricts a lot of airflow
It really does.
to the Switch. But so they do need to do an overhaul on a lot of the stuff. But 4K is doable. It'll be expensive though.
Yeah.
They could potentially go to maybe a 1080 display or a 1440 display.
I think
And
that
still,
would be top, honestly. 1440 would probably be as high as they would go. Because, like you said, the Switch already gets hot in my hands, and it's only doing
Right.
720. If you're doing 4K, I mean, you got to have a better cooling system. It's gonna have to be beefier, and it's
better
gonna get
processor.
it's gonna get no battery life whatsoever.
The
And
only thing I can think of is that if it might be possible if they did a console where the handheld portion of it doesn't have all of the capabilities as
Yeah.
the dock version. So the dock itself, the system is scalable, where when you
Yeah.
pull it out of the thing, you can play the game. It
Because
just won't be
honestly, there's no reason to have it in 4K, in portable mode, because 1080p would be perfect. I mean, even at 720, things look, you're not going to tell that much of a difference
See,
between.
I
1080.
do, but I'm
Yeah, unfortunately I do as well. But
yeah, it's really
if I'm on my
noticeable.
if I'm on my computer, I'm staring at two 4K monitors. So
Yeah.
Right. Whenever I'm on my
um,
PlayStation 5, I'm looking at a 4K monitor. It just
Well, I
it's
mean, I'm just talking about in pure handheld mode, not like if it only like say I could see it like you said if it does 1080p in handheld mode, which is more than enough that you need, but then you dock it and then it can go to 4K. That I can
right.
see
That's what
happening.
I'm saying. Yeah, that
so
would make more sense.
but the thing is, right? They could bump the display on the Switch to be 1080. That would actually be really nice.
Mhm.
Again, the Switch would have to be slightly thicker, not much thicker to compensate for extra battery, bigger cooling,
Yeah.
better processors. But at the same time, if they could somehow do some sort of link, you know how like laptops have lightning connectors?
Yeah.
Wally, I think depending on how new yours might have one. I know all Macs have them.
I do have one. Yeah.
Yeah, so with the lightning connectors, you can get this box. You can get this enclosure. It's about yay long by about yay high, and you put a external graphics card in it, like a proper desktop graphics card in it, and it connects to your laptop via a lightning cable. So, and then they could do something similar to that, whereas they have more power in the dock to push those extra frames, but they don't need to go 4K for the Switch. Like most of their games are 1080.
Yeah.
90% of the games on there are 1080. So it would be pointless to push the resolution that far.
Yeah. Unless
I
they
really
plan
believe
on putting games like, you know, some of the AAA titles that are on Sony and 360 on the Switch, you know, like say the new Doom game or something, and have it run at
the new
4K.
Doom game is on the Switch and it's awful.
That's what I'm saying. And it can only do 720. I mean, that would be the type of thing you would put on the Switch to do 4K.
I got you. Right. And, you know, and the reason why I was thinking, you know, a scalable type system is because of the fact that Microsoft has a scalable system. There's the Xbox Series S and X, and they play the same games, just one doesn't look as good as the other.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting idea for a pro version of the Switch, but I don't know. Nintendo doesn't seem to me like the type of company that would do that for a console. Yes, it is a handheld also, and they've done that demonstrably with their handhelds in the past.
Yeah.
But it just doesn't seem like something they would do with the Switch itself.
They've never done it with a console. You know,
It seems unnecessary.
Yeah.
Like
Right.
to push their resolution, even in dock mode, to push their resolution that far is unnecessary.
Yeah.
And to segment the market like that, because the Switch is more geared towards the casual consumer. It's not for these power users.
It'd be nice to maybe just push the display to 1080, and then it's 1080 on the dock and in handheld mode. That would be perfectly fine. HD looks regular HD does look good as long as it's not 720.
Imagine how good Breath of the Wild looks in just 720. Imagine just bumping that up to 1080. You know, would look incredible. I mean, that's a definite difference. But I think what y'all misunderstood what I said earlier when I was talking about 1080 and 4K is Nintendo games don't push the envelope like that when it comes to graphics. It's their stuff is more stylized, so it doesn't need to be in 4K. So,
but what we're trying to say is that, you know, outside of that, we're talking about third parties for the most part.
Yeah,
because there's a lot of indie and a lot of AAA titles on the Switch now.
Yeah,
right. And the problem I'm running into is I'm playing. I haven't touched my Switch since November, and because I've been playing my PlayStation this whole time, and it's because it just the Switch looks horrible compared to what I'm doing, what I'm pulling on the dang PlayStation.
A lot of people are probably going to get pissed with this comment, but there are a few categories people fall in, and like you've got your graphic snobs, which is pretty much what Wally just unfortunately described.
Well, no, I'm not even like, just talking about
no. But that's what you just described. You won't touch anything that doesn't look amazing. Like, so because I'm not. I'll play anything at any resolution. Right. I play old titles, new titles, but like I have a preference. Like I stopped playing my Switch about half an hour ago to come and do this. Like I go through phases, and you know, looking at 4K is great and very pretty, but you can't, just because a system. This is the other thing that I sort of kind of live by, but you can't you can't just disregard a game because its graphics aren't
Right.
good enough or look nice enough. Because look, some games you look at and they look terrible, but they're absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
Like
that's why I love the Switch so much, because I'll play whatever. It doesn't matter if it's on the PlayStation 4 or the Switch or on computer. It doesn't matter because graphics don't really mean that much to me. I'm looking for whatever is going to give me the most fun experience.
Right.
And right now, most of that, 90% of that, is on the Switch.
Well, and that's what I'm trying to. I didn't convey it as well. It seems that I needed to. It's not so much the way the games play or anything like that. I mean the way they look anyway. The actual, like, for example, Astro's Playland, the free game that actually comes with the PlayStation 5, is the best Nintendo game they never made. It's a platformer. It feels really nice, but at the same time, with the Switch, I played the 3D Mario All Stars recently, and I just can't get into it.
I think you're just trying to. I think you're trying to justify that $550 Spider-Man game you bought.
I mean, that $550 Spider-Man game was great, by the way. But that's beside the point. It's like, I spent $300 on the damn Switch, though.
Yeah.
It's not that far removed.
Yeah.
So it just, I don't. I think it all really boils down to the types of games that you enjoy the most.
Yeah.
And with me, I'm more about those twitchy, action-packed type of games, and y'all are more the
Yeah.
puzzly, cute, or sometimes
Yeah,
just puzzly, not cute.
well, I play a lot of different games, but
Right.
like next to me, I got a PS4 and an Xbox One S. I haven't touched them in about 12 months.
Ooh.
Oh wow, that's a
Like,
long time.
yeah, there's good games on there, but I've got my Switch and my PC. I rarely play my PC. My Switch is the most played console that I own.
Right.
Simple fact is, I can just sit on the couch, put something on the TV, and just play
That's
and
me.
watch TV.
That's
Like,
that's me.
I
100%.
my Switch has probably been docked maybe twice in its life.
Yeah.
Been played in its dock maybe twice in its life, and I've had it since launch.
Right. I don't play it docked often at all when I do play it.
Actually, the past couple of weeks playing what I'm reviewing tonight, the Resident Evil HD remake, is the only time I've docked it, and honestly can't even remember the last time I played it with it docked. Honestly, like I mostly play with it while I'm on the couch watching TV or in the bed or while I'm pooping. That's what I love about the Switch. It goes
I'm
everywhere.
never battling your Switch.
Don't touch my Switch. You get the poo on you. But let's go to the last story. This is at bleedingcool.com. Toshihiro Nagoshi would be interested to work on F-Zero again. And me and Derek talked about this last week. And me and Bethany talked about this the other night too.
Right.
It's been a hot minute since we've seen a proper F-Zero game released by Nintendo, something that a lot of fans would like on the Switch. I am one of them. Last one we saw was for the series was back in 2003 and 2004, with the most popular being F-Zero GX for the GameCube. 17 years since, the only time we've had anything related is when you pick up Smash Brothers to see Captain Falcon. In an interview with Red Bull France, Toshihiro Nagoshi was chatting about the latest Yakuza title, which I actually want to play that, when the subject of F-Zero came up. They asked him, you were a producer on F-Zero GX, which to this day is still considered a classic and arguably one of the best racing games ever. Would you be willing to work on F-Zero again if Nintendo asked? Excuse me. He said, putting aside the possibility of this happening, I have to admit that I have a lot of affection for F-Zero GX. If the opportunity presented itself, I wouldn't be against it, and in this case, I would like to make a game with challenge. I'm assuming that if Nintendo just wants a fun and accessible racing game, they already have Mario Kart for that. And that's kind of what we talked about. Is I love Mario Kart, but when it comes to I want to play a racing game on the Switch, but I want an F-Zero game where I can upgrade my craft. More kind of, I don't want to say RPG elements. What would you say? More like elements of like Forza and stuff, where you upgrade
Right.
your cars and you get different racing suits and all that different kind of stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know what you're saying. Like, and yeah, we had a discussion about F-Zero like games.
Mhm.
I didn't actually think that maybe there could possibly be another one in the works, but like I love F-Zero. I've played all of them. I've played all of them on console, and you know, it's one of my most favorite series. And like yeah, Mario Kart's great, but at the same time, you're like it has its niche audience. I do like Mario Kart. I play semi frequently when I'm in the right mood, but it doesn't it doesn't fulfill that gap that I have for fast paced racing. Yeah, Mario Kart can be
Right.
quick,
Yeah.
but they're difficult. But when you're on 200cc, it's difficult to use, and you got all the items you got to go around and dodge and try and figure out and stuff like that. One that I play heavily, and giddy. One that I play heavily is Redout, because it feels that that need for speed, really. Like,
Yeah.
well, they start you off fairly gradually. They start you at 500 k's an hour, and then you go through. There's 4 classes of ships. The first class, I think they do start you around 500-600 k's an hour, or and then convert it to miles. It's got both, but I play in metric because I'm normal.
Because you're smart.
The right way.
Yeah, the right way. And then they step you up, and then by the time you get to the fourth fourth category, which is the fastest ship you can get, you're clocking you're clocking 1,300 k. Yeah, 1,300 k's like an hour. And but they do it gradually, because you got to earn enough money to buy the next class of ship. So you got to be in that class for a while, so then you get used to the tracks, you get used to the mechanics of the game, then you increase the speed, so on and so forth, until you're in the top tier ships. And they're not all the same tracks. They throw in new tracks here and there, and with the new DLCs, there are some tricky ass tracks. And
But that
but
that what you had showed me with that Redout game, like that is as close to what I would want from a new F-Zero title. And F-Zero, like it feels like I know Nintendo doesn't want to what's the word? They
Give us
don't
what we
want.
want.
Yeah, well, not only that, but they don't want to take away from the Mario Kart, because that's like their big racing franchise. But there's such goodwill, like with people, for like people love F-Zero. Like I still love to go back and play the old SNES version. It's still a fun game to play, and it should still be one of those AAA Nintendo titles. And I just don't understand why. They could pull in that that hardcore racing crowd with a good F-Zero game like that.
Right.
yeah, and
Even I will undock my Switch to play the game. That I love F-Zero to death. I mean, the only game I owned 3 games for the Game Boy the brief time that I had it, and one of them was an F-Zero game, because that's my favorite racing game on the
Right.
platform. I
And
need another F-Zero game.
yeah, and like a new F-Zero game would be welcomed with open arms, but they got to do it. They've got to do it right,
Yeah.
and they've where like it can't be something like what we had in GX. Like the times have changed vastly since then, and
Right.
it does need to be fast paced. Needs to be some nice little customizations here and there.
Yeah.
Throw in a couple of power ups, active and passive power ups. Like Redout's got all that. It's just not an F Zero game,
Yeah.
but it's got everything that a new F Zero would need. And the thing with Redout is it's it's basically a tribute to Pod Racer, Wipeout, F Zero. I think there was one more, and I can't remember what it is. But it's like it's a tribute to those games, and it's like all those games combined into one fantastic game.
Like Ridge Racer. Like Ridge Racer was a great game. You know,
Right.
like,
The thing that gets me about some of these that are trying to do what F-Zero did was the tracks aren't great in most of them. And really, that's what the secret sauce is.
Yeah.
Give us a track that's fun, gives us that sense of speed, that challenge, where if we
And
learn the
that's
track, we can
that's
be a part of it.
yeah, that's what I mean. And unfortunately, I'm coming back to it, but Redout's got all that. Like I showed Jay a wicked track that I
oh yeah.
found the other day. The whole track is underwater,
Oh, beautiful.
but you there's a couple of sections where you basically jump up out of the water like a dolphin, and then go back into the water onto another part of the track, and then they've got loops, they've got pipes, they've got basically the track designs are similar to F-Zero's track designs.
Yeah.
The
Nice.
only one of the things that Redout is possibly missing is a chance to eliminate or knock out competitors.
Yeah. That's
Right.
the one thing you would need, but
it-
it would have to be different from like a Mario Kart
Yes.
type of thing. It would have to be something that
Like-
fits that F-Zero universe.
And yeah, and in F-Zero, you could shoulder barge your opponents and try and do enough damage to make them explode, or you could also spin hit them as well to do damage. And if you hit them enough times, they explode.
Yeah.
And Redout kind of has that with some of its active abilities. I haven't really looked through most of them, but overall, it's a game that I love and I'm constantly going back to.
It would just be better if it was you were playing Captain Falcon or it
Right.
had that Nintendo sauce on it. It just needs that
Yeah.
Nintendo sauce.
It's basically just missing Nintendo IPs. That's
Yeah.
basically it. But you can pick it up on the Switch.
Yeah.
Redout is on the Switch. If you want an F-Zero like game, pick it up. It's on the Switch. It's like, how much was it? Like $40 or something?
Yeah. It was on sale on Steam for 10, so it might still be.
And it's on Steam. It's for Windows only.
Yeah.
But it is for a fact on the Switch because I've seen it on there.
So you hear that, everybody? Flood Nintendo and tell them that we want a new F-Zero game. Tell them to go look at Redout and give us a new F-Zero game, or just go
100%.
take over that studio and just make the Redout games into F-Zero. So that's all you gotta do, Nintendo. You got the money. Like, give us what we want. That's all I'm saying. But you guys ready to go into our review for tonight? But before that, we have to do some shout outs. As usual, Derek does our shout outs every week, but I'm going to do them this week. And if you'd like to be a Patreon supporter of this show, and we give you the extra episodes every month. And of course, it's me, Derek, and Mr. Wiley Phelps, where once a month we get together and we do commentary tracks for movies, cartoons, anything retro cinema or 80s or 90s centric. We just did the Christmas one a few weeks ago where we did 2 episodes. We did the Christmas Real Ghostbusters episode, and we also did a Batman animated series Christmas episode. So if you want to go check that out, go over to our Patreon at patreon.com/nerdcaveretro. Some of our Patreons include RMS Jackson, AxeBlade07, of course Daniel Salmon, John Jekyll, a.k.a. Mixmaster, Carlos Longoria, Staff Sergeant Sketch, Randy Bailey, Tyler Watson, and our newest Patreon supporters, Justin Olson and Brandon Rutledge, who, if you listen to the Derek Diamond Experience, he was on our panel last year for Pensacon, the Defending Bad Movies 2. What did we call it? Electric Boogaloo, or what did we call it?
I mean, that has to be what we called it.
Yeah, I think so. So go on over to patreon.com, support us, and keep us above the $50 level every single month. And tonight, we're going to be talking about... Ooh, spooky! I know I normally do the horror games for Halloween Horror Month, but, screw it. It's a new year. I want to do this. It's the Resident Evil HD Remake. It was actually officially came out in 2002. Resident Evil is a survival horror video game developed by Capcom Production Studio 4 and published by Capcom. It was released for the GameCube video game console in 2002. It is a remake of the 1996 PlayStation game Resident Evil, the first installment in the Resident Evil video game series. You don't say. Story takes place in 1998 near a fictional Midwestern town of Raccoon City, where a series of bizarre murders have taken place. The player takes on the role of either Chris Redfield or Jill Valentine, STARS agent sent in by the city to investigate the murders. I played first back in the 90s. I actually played Resident Evil 2 before I played 1. And because back when the original Resident Evil came out in 96, that was actually my first year of college. So I was not focused on video games at the time. I was trying to pass college courses. So Resident Evil 1 completely just was not on my radar. I didn't even know that game existed until 1998 when I was working at the movie theater, and some of my coworkers were playing Resident Evil 2 and talking about it. So that weekend, me and a buddy of mine who actually had a PlayStation, we went and rented Resident Evil 2, and he didn't have what were those Sony the little hard drives, where you saved your stuff to it. What were they called?
Memory card?
Huh?
The memory card?
Yeah, the memory card. Is that what they were called? I thought they were named something else.
No, they were memory cards.
Yeah, he didn't have a memory card, so we just...
How do you own a PlayStation without a memory card?
I don't know. He didn't have a memory card.
That is the oddest thing I've ever heard.
I know. So we had to play the whole damn game without being able to save. I can't tell you how many times we died and had to start over from the beginning. It took like...
Oh, it's just like the Pilgrims.
Yeah, it took like 2 days to finish the game. But I loved it, and then I eventually went back and played the original Resident Evil. I think first time I played Resident Evil was on the GameCube, because I played Resident Evil 4 at the same time. I got them both for the GameCube at the same time.
Wow.
But this version of Resident Evil, I started playing it a week or so ago, and it's on sale all the time. So if you've never played the original Resident Evil game, or you're a fan of the Resident Evil series, but you've only played like the last few, definitely go back, and they're gonna do a remake like they did of Part 2 for this one, where they changed the camera angle to behind the shoulder. And that's something I really had to get used to with this version. It was going back to that old school Resident Evil style of the tank controls and the weird camera angles, which is cool because it's cinematic, but at the same time, it really sucks. to play it, especially when you're doing some certain puzzles and you're trying to do things quickly and the camera angle keeps changing and you're like, God damn it, I can't do this fast enough because you're like constantly going in the wrong direction. But those are kind of few and far between. You get used to it pretty quick, the camera angle. And I've gone through the first story as Chris Redfield, and I'm almost finished with the second story as Jill Valentine, which it's that thing where you have the two different story. You have the one storyline, but you have two different perspectives. You go through the first story as Chris Redfield, then you go through as Jill Valentine, and you get separate parts of the story with each person. And one of the biggest things that I noticed about this game was they went back and they redid all of the original audio. And I've heard clips of the original audio of this game, and it's horrendous. So they went back and redid all of that. The game looks gorgeous on the Switch, and I didn't expect it to look as good as it did. It looks fantastic. The only thing I could say about it that really took me out of the game was there was a couple of times where they still used the original cutscene. Like they redid the whole beginning cutscene, and they completely re-rendered it, everything. It looked great. But there's a couple of times during the game where you get these short cutscenes where the game is so gorgeous, and then it goes to this cutscene that's like from the original game. So it goes from this real nice, crisp gameplay to this really pixelated, like awful looking cutscene, and it's like it's so bad that it like yanks you out of the game, and you're just like, ew, that looks terrible. So, but other than that, I had a really good time playing this game. And have you, Wally? We'll start with you. Have you ever played the original Resident Evil?
Oh, absolutely. It was, almost everybody with a PlayStation played it.
Yeah,
It was the it was the belle of the ball.
yeah.
And it was, I'm a little upset at the fact that they re-recorded. Did they re-record the dialogue? Is that what you're talking
I
about?
think so because I've heard some of the original dialogue and from what I've heard before, the dialogue, like the voice actors are horrible, and I didn't really notice any horrible voice acting while playing this version. So, and I remember reading, I think they did redo the let's see, original developers. Let's see, blah blah blah. Developers added new areas for players to explore, changed most of the puzzle designs. Um, let's see. Cut from the original game. No, let's see. No, I don't see anything. Oh yeah, they hired new voice actors and rewrote the game script to make the plot more convincing.
Oh,
The,
for Christ's sake!
the game was developed. The game was developed over the course of 1 year and 2 months. Final development was very intense. Blah blah blah. It was released March 2002 in Japan and April 2002 in North America. So yes, they went back
Well,
and redid all the voice stuff.
I mean, I understand because it was hot garbage,
Yeah.
but it was classic hot garbage.
Yeah.
So I don't like this whole idea.
So what about you, Bethany? Did you ever play the original? Because this is the granddaddy of survival horror. Is this game? This is where it all started, right here. Even though, just as a side note, this game was not really a remake, but it was kind of a spiritual successor to a game that Capcom did in Japan for the NES that never came out in America called Sweet Home. And there's a lot of stuff in Sweet Home that is in the Resident Evil series, like the Umbrella Corporation, all that kind of stuff. It's sort of this same. It deals with zombies and all that kind of stuff. I do have a ROM of it. I tried to play it, but I need to download a ROM that has it in English because it's really hard to play if you don't know Japanese. And I'm too old to learn a new language, so I'm gonna have to find just a new ROM of it. But back to Bethany, have you ever played the original Resident Evil game?
No, I haven't. No, I never owned a PlayStation growing up. so I never played Resident Evil. I know of it. I know about it. I think I might have played some modern day renditions of it, but I've never actually played the original. And um, at the same time, like um, it is actually a very good game, and um, it would have uh, um, kicked off, as you said, the survival horror genre. Like, um, to my knowledge, I know survival horror was around because there was some PC games that were already doing it,
Mm.
but I suppose this was more. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I suppose this was more the game that brought it to console and more modern, not modern, but more people because
Yeah.
it was on console. So, but um, yeah, I've played bits of it, like bits of modern day renditions of it, newer games of it, but never the original.
Yeah. Well, it kind of changed around Resident Evil 4. It became kind of less about zombies and more. See, I played 5. Do you remember much of the story that Wally from like 5 and 6? I played them, but I don't remember
No.
much from them.
Like
4 was
I didn't have a console that would play them.
yeah.
So at the time that they
Well,
were
well,
contemporaneous.
I played 5 and 6 on the 360, and I don't think I ever finished 6. Um, but yeah, they became less about zombies and more kind of actiony, kind of and just straight up just action games.
Right.
I like going back to the original game of this where there's something about these early Resident Evil games that just suck you in and make you feel like you're alone in this mansion. And they were very smart about it because not only is it the music and the sound effects and just they made it feel bigger than it was because there is so much backtracking in the game, but because of those weird camera angles, it's really hard to orient yourself to where you kind of know where you are, if you know what I'm saying, and it makes jump scares a lot easier because you can't peer around corners. Um, you do have to do a lot of backtracking, but I found myself having to look at the map a lot because I would go to the same places 20 times and still not know how to get where I'm going because those camera angles are so crazy that keep
Right.
changing around. So that was kind of one of the smart things they did. And for this HD version, they actually have versions for the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One that are 5.1 surround with 1080p and widescreen aspect ratio of 16 by 9. The original pre-rendered backgrounds have 4 by 3 format. The developers decided against re-rendering them in 16 by 9 because it would allow players to see more of the environment than intended, reducing the sense of immersion and danger. So I guess they left the original cut scenes in those too, but that's pretty much what this version is too, because it was released for the Nintendo Switch May 21st, 2019, along with Resident Evil 4 and Resident Evil 0. I paid $12 for this. It was worth every penny. It's usually about $20, $19.99 I think. But if you are interested in getting it, I would say it's worth the $20. But I would just put it on my wish list because it literally goes on sale like every 3 months and goes down to about $12. So if you're willing to wait, I would just wait. Or sometimes they come out with bundles too, like they'll put in Resident Evil 0 with it, or what they'll have like the Capcom Resident Evil bundles. Um, but yeah, there's not much bad I can say about the game other than it does take a while to get used to those crazy weird camera angles, and I thought at first it would bother me going back into it and playing it that way, especially after playing the Resident Evil 2 remake and how much I loved the fact that they just moved the camera behind the shoulder. Made the game just because it's no, like Resident Evil 2 is still my favorite game of all time. I had that game on the Nintendo 64 and just played it over and over and over again. And then the remake was so good. So that's why I can't wait until they do a complete remake of this game with the behind the shoulder thing. I'll play it any way they want to give it to me because I'm in love with the Resident Evil series, especially these early games because I love the puzzle aspects of it. I love, the even though it's kind of aggravating sometimes, it adds to it the fact that you don't have much inventory space, so you got to make decisions about, okay,
Right.
am I going to take this with me, and what am I going to put in the, you come across those chests where you can store stuff, and you're like, okay, well, do I take this with me, or do I want to take extra, first aid spray with me because I don't know what the hell I'm going to run into in this next spot that I go to. So it created that tension with everything that the game did, and I know some of it, people don't like the inventory and like management and all that kind of stuff, but honestly that's what makes the game for me is that uncomfortability that the game makes because that all that kind of uncomfortableness just immerses you in that environment even more.
Right.
Yeah, and like survival horror as a genre, um, they've actually these days they've done it fairly well. They can even make you feel helpless, even while giving you firearms or a knife or something to defend yourself. They still manage to make you feel helpless.
Well, there are certain games that I actually have on Steam, and I don't remember what they're called, but you're like a investigator, and you go into like
Evil Within.
Is it Evil Within or something? And you don't even have a weapon. The only thing you can do is run. So like if something's coming after you, you just run. That's all you can do. Uh, and like I like games like that. I like the survival horror type games.
But back sort of like back on point with Resident Evil, I think they probably could have made the background 16:9. I don't think it would have changed the immersion too much.
Yeah.
But I suppose they might have had to have zoomed the camera in a bit more. Obviously, like there's other problems that that can arise that they can easily fix, but at the same time, um, I do get what they're saying. It's just um, with it being such an old game, changing the background to 16:9 could without doing a little bit of extra work, you could have that little bit of disconnection, I suppose. But I don't think it would have been much.
Well, that's kind of that. Those were the parts that really, kind of yanked me out of the game was when it would go to those cut scenes, and the resolution was so jarring between them. They didn't even go in and re-render them or anything. It was like the original, like 240 resolution that and you're going from like on the Switch 720p to like 280. It was like, whoa, what happened? I thought like the Switch overheated or something. I was like, what happened? And then it goes back to the gameplay and everything's all crisp and beautiful. And it's like, whoa, they really need to go back and just redo this whole thing.
Yeah, and that's even worse. Like just switching from two completely different resolutions.
Yeah.
Just makes it even worse. It makes you feel even more disconnected than a slight re-render of the cutscenes.
Yeah. But they, like I said,
Yeah.
they're so few and far between. You don't get a ton of cutscenes in the game. A lot of the game story is told through, the letters that you find and the files that you get throughout the game. And then every once in a while you'll run into another Stars team member, and they do well. Like they re-rendered those, but you'll come across these random cutscenes. Like there's one part where you have to use a crank to close off this water valve, and the water in this pool goes down. So as soon as you're done cranking it, it goes to this other cutscene, and it's from the original game, and it's so jarring. Like you can't even see. Like it's the quality of it is so low that it just yanks you out of the game, and then it pops back, and you're standing there at the crank, and it's this beautiful game again. But those are few and far between. But when they happen, they do yank you out of the game, and it's like, ugh, that should have been fixed. But for the most part, I would say, you know, if you're interested in survival horror, even if you played Resident Evil back in the day, and you're like, hey, it looked great back then, but it probably looks like crap now. No, it looks great. Like this HD remake is totally, in my mind, 100% worth the money. And because it took me just to go through the Chris Redfield storyline, and keep in mind it was my first playthrough. I totally didn't remember any of the puzzles or where to go. I got lost a lot. It took me 15 hours to go through that first storyline. I'm going through the second storyline now with Jill Valentine, and I'd say I'm going to finish it probably in the next couple of hours, and I would say I'll probably finish that in half the time. So you're going to get roughly, 25 hours of playtime out of this game, and I've loved every second of it. I love the way the Resident Evil games make me feel. I like that environment. I love solving the puzzles. I think it's a great looking game, and if you have a Switch or PS4 or still have an Xbox One or Xbox 3, hell, even Xbox 360, I think they have a PlayStation 3 version of it. What else did they do? There's a Wii version of it. I mean, it's pretty much available everywhere to get this HD remake. So if you're interested in playing it,
scares me.
yeah, just pick it up because it's absolutely 100% worth the money. I mean, even at $20 on the Switch, like I said, I bought it on sale for $12.99, but even at 20, I would have felt completely justified. And on a scale of 1 to 10, it's a solid 8. So there you go. I would really like for you guys to play it, especially you, Bethany, and see, because you are, way younger than me and Wally. We're old farts at this point, and so I'd love to see what you would think about it, going back in time and playing this type of game that was popular in the '90s, and see what that type of gameplay was like then.
Well, it was PS1, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
It came out in
Yeah.
'96, the original.
Yeah, like I grew up in that time frame. Like from I was early '90s, so I basically grew up with PS1, basically PS1 to PS4, SNES to Switch, and Xbox to Xbox One X, Xbox Series X. Like that's the time frame that I've grown up in. And although I haven't played those consoles, like I've had a PS3 and a PS4, but I know what the game would have looked like in its original form.
Yeah.
And it was in that weird 3D period. But even still, like a lot of people give the 64 crap for everything, like how some games ended up looking and the controller and stuff like that. But like that's what I grew up on, and I even with PlayStation, I've seen a lot of PlayStation games, And even one that definitely comes to mind is Tomb Raider.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Oh.
Tomb Raider made its home on the PlayStation. It come
Mhm.
out on the PS1, I believe. And yeah, it was all polygons, but
Yeah.
that's what we had back then. And I still play games from that generation now, even older. Just because they're good games. I
Well,
definitely will give it a look
that's why I
when I
think
can.
that a lot of the games from that era need to be redone. You know, like I think this is the perfect game to get remade, like the way they did with the Resident Evil 2. And I think
Right.
Nintendo needs to go back and take some of those games from that era, the Nintendo 64 era, and redo like they did with they did that recently with um, uh, Pod Racer. You know, they're going back to the 64 and taking some of those games and remaking them with today's graphics and sound and everything, and they still hold up. And even though this game was redone, remastered in 2002, and then they cleaned it up even more for in 2015. This game's great. It still holds up to this day, and there are so many more other games that from that era that deserve a little love and a new paint job. And
Right.
that's just my opinion.
I think Metal Gear Solid should really be remade because the original, because I want to play it again, but at the same time, it's so hard to find a good copy of it, if that makes
Yeah.
sense. And
Hell,
I don't have a working PlayStation one at this point.
I would love a new version, a PS4 or PS5 version of Twisted Metal. Like, bring
Oh my
that back.
god, I love Twisted Metal 2 was my
Yeah.
favorite game of that generation.
Sweet Tooth for life,
Uh,
baby.
I think I only played a little bit of Twisted Metal back in the day. Like it wasn't a game that was actually on my radar. Um, I only played like a real small amount of it, but
Right.
yeah, it's a great game. Same as like Burnout. I
Yeah.
love Burnout.
Love Burnout.
Yeah.
But like the game that I played the most was Burnout 3.
Yeah.
It was either Burnout 2 or Burnout 3. And they were amazing games. And the only one you can get is Burnout Paradise.
Yeah.
Which
And
isn't as good.
the port of it, the PC port for it, is trash.
Oh no.
You know what
Like
game?
the controls are really not proper. Like even if you play it on Xbox controller, it's just the controls are clunky.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because the 3 and Burnout Revenge, I think it was,
Oh, I love
are
Burnout Revenge.
yeah,
That
they
was good.
both had such perfect arcadey
And
controls.
You know what
and but
game needs to
that's
be
that's
redone?
what
And Wally, I
I
think you will agree with me here. And it's in the survival horror genre. It was for the 360 Condemned. Remember Condemned?
oh,
That needs a
Yes.
remake. That's I think you remember too. I played that game and I had to stop playing it for a few days because there was a jump scare in that game that was so bad. I actually threw my controller at the TV and I got so angry and upset. I turned my 360 off and I wouldn't go in my room for like a day.
Which one was
oh,
what jump
oh
scare?
he
It
he
was
he had an adult cry.
I was going down the stairs into the like a sewer or underground work area, and
Uh-huh.
usually you go into these lockers, and there would be like I don't know health packs or whatever. And there was a part where I saw a locker. I opened it up, and there was this zombie lady in there that just jumped out at me, and I just screamed and threw the controller at the TV. I was
Uh,
like, I'm
I
done.
did the same thing. The thing with Condemned that made it so terrifying is the limited amount of weaponry that
Yeah.
was available, because all of the guns were finite, and so were all of the bludgeoning weapons.
Yeah.
And you had to be like, okay,
Well, it was
so
just
if
so
I hit him twice, run over there and grab the gun, I'll be able
yeah.
to put off a shot before I can get over to the bat. He might drop his gun at that point.
Yeah.
You know, and
Well, it was just
you
such
had to.
a cool game as far as like the detective mechanics that it had in
Right.
it, where you know you're trying to solve a mystery and you've got all these little cool like detective like machines, like little technology, whatever, like
Right. You
game
had to
stuff.
search the
Yeah,
room,
looking
and
for
yeah.
like fingerprints and like DNA and like all that kind of different stuff, and just it, and then the atmosphere of that game, like when you're going in that abandoned shopping mall and there's like all
Oh,
the the mannequins that would follow you, like
I
oh
mean, and
my.
then you turn around and they're all like right there, and it's like, why are you trying to kill me?
Oh man.
And the ending is just so pants on head crazy
Yeah.
that I couldn't believe that that's how they were going to wrap things up.
That was one of the most unsung games of the Xbox 360. It was not a
I will
huge
agree.
hit, but everybody that played it thought it was great. Like just one of those games, like must play games for the Xbox 360.
Right. I didn't play it until almost at the end of the 360 run,
You
and
you
it
had
was
my copy of it because I got done with it. I was
that's
like,
right.
dude, you have to play this game.
Right. It was great. I'm
I've never heard of it.
Oh my
oh,
gosh.
So survival horror is a genre that I dabble in very, very rarely. I myself don't particularly like horror games, but I have a few on my list that I actually don't mind playing. Like Among the Sleep's actually a pretty decent horror game. Um, if you want to feel any more helpless than you already do in a regular horror game, make your child a toddler that walks through a house that's haunted,
Hmm.
holding a teddy bear. Like survival horror is one of those genres that it can be done poorly and it can be
Yeah.
done right, but when it's done right, it is one of the most amazing experiences. Like SCP. SCP is a fantastic horror game.
SCP.
Um, if you haven't heard of it, look it up. There's heaps of videos on it. I watch playthroughs of SCP.
Yeah.
I have watched playthroughs of SCP, and it's actually a really good game. Alien Isolation's another good one.
I hear that. Yeah.
I've watched
That
gameplay
game
of
is
that.
fantastic.
I've seen gameplay of that game, and it looks horrifying. Like, I don't know if I could handle the tension in that game.
I've watched a complete playthrough of it, and it is a fantastic game. The Evil Within is another fantastic horror game.
The game
And
I was trying to think of a little while ago, I'm pulling up my thing here, is Amnesia. Have you guys played
yeah, Amnesia is
Oh yeah.
fantastic. Amnesia
Amnesia
Dark Descent is amazing.
and
Um,
Outlast? Did you ever play Outlast?
no, but I've watched a playthrough of Amnesia and Amnesia Dark Descent,
Yeah.
but not Outlast. But I know
Outlast is
Outlast
good
is
too.
amazing.
It's in that same kind of vein as
You know,
Amnesia.
I tried to play a game called Dead by Daylight, which is a multiplayer game where you are either a person who is being hunted by a serial killer, or you are the serial killer hunting down the people.
That
And
game, that game's amazing to watch. Amazing to play with friends, and when you get, it's actually really entertaining to watch when like you're
right.
watching big YouTubers and stuff. It's a really decent game to watch.
See, I tried to play it on Stadia, and there was no one to play it with.
Yeah.
Well, there's your problem.
Well, all I gotta say is if you're listening to this and you have Xbox Game Pass, it's probably on there, Condemned, for the 360. If it is, I cannot recommend that
Find
game
out.
enough. Look it up real quick, Wally, and see if it's on there. But yeah, Bethany, if you get a chance to play Condemned, that's one of those games that will compel you to keep playing it, but at the same time, it's gonna scare the absolute crap out of you, and you have to play it in the dark when you play it.
Yeah, another game that I dabble in frequently is The Long Dark. It's such a good game. It's a like actual survival horror. You're basically plane crashed or some sort of story like that. You're thrown in the woods and you got to survive for as many days as possible.
I've
And
heard of
there
this.
and at night there's random animal encounters like wolves and bears, and there's even some in during the day. And what makes it what does make it hard is that yeah, you got to manage your food and drink resources and sleep, which within this game they're actually manageable. I know in some survival horror cases, the way that this is done, they drain stupidly quick and it becomes really unmanageable and more of a task. But with the Long Dark, I found everything's very manageable. It doesn't take you out too much, but you also got to fight the cold as well
I think I
because
may have
you're
watched you or Rampage play this over Twitch.
probably would have been me.
Yeah, I remember something. It sounds very, very familiar.
It is a
It,
very good game to play.
Were you able
it
to?
doesn't look like it's on Game Pass. It is $20 though.
That's not bad, actually. It may be available on good old games too. Maybe even Steam. I haven't looked it up, but we need to get going, fellas. We've been here almost an hour and a half, so this was a meaty show for the the subscribers this week. So
Delicious.
before we go, we'll start with Bethany. Where would you like to direct people for your online goodness?
You can find me at Bethany_Fox1. That's my Twitter. You could also find me at my Instagram if you wish. If you're curious to see what I'm getting up to with my models, you can go and follow me at which is actually the same. It's Bethany_Fox1.
Awesome. Is
That's
your Twitch the same?
no, my Twitch is actually just Bethany Fox, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just Bethany Fox. That's my Twitch.
Fantastic.
Um,
Go give him a follow, everybody, and definitely go join our Discord community. He runs a tight ship over there. So what about you, Wally? Where would you like to direct the good people to find your online goodness?
At the real big wall everywhere, except for Facebook, where it's facebook.com/Wally is funny. And
Fantastic.
I've been streaming a lot of Fortnite recently because they had the Mandalorian as its
Yes.
theme, and in order to get Baby Yoda, you have to go to level 100. So I've been on the grind to get to that point. I am halfway there. I'm at level 51,
Fantastic.
and I got my fingers crossed I can make it there without having to spend money.
Awesome. And I think that's going to about do it for this show. I'm going to play our music. And if you would like to email us, you can email us at nerdcaveretro@gmail.com. We are at nerdcaveretro.com. We're on Instagram and Twitter at nerdcaveretro and individually at JayFunktastic and at Derek_Diamond. We're on Facebook at facebook.com/nerdcaveretro. And we are on Patreon at patreon.com/nerdcaveretro, where if you go throw us a couple of bucks a month, you help keep food in our bellies and the lights on here at the Nerd Cave Retro Studios. And if you can't do that, can't throw us a couple bucks a month, please go leave us a review wherever fine podcasts are given away for free. So I'll let you do the sign off, Wally. Tell them what it's all about.
Live long and smoke meats.
Yes. I haven't heard that in forever.
No one has.
Wow.
I stopped getting smoked meats in the mail, so I needed to bring it back.
The last time I heard that was PCP days.
Right.
Of course. I wish people could still go listen to PCP. It was so good. But we're going to go. Good night, everybody.
Monkey!
Monkey.
Calm down,
All
Cat.
right.
Oh, God.
Thank you for watching on Twitch. And we will see you guys next week. Goodbye.